All right, I just want to go on a quick rant. So what I get tired of hearing, all these knuckleheads out here in the United States talk about is I find it funny how everybody calls himself, a free citizen and, brags about being free. But yet the ironic contradiction of it all is that, and then on the other hand, everybody will say, well, I'm a law abiding citizen. So what they're really saying is, look, I obey what the government tells me, and that's really all I know. Right? Whatever the rules of the land might be, I obey. It's like, okay, well, how does that make you free though? Like say, for instance, how could you on one hand be free and can make your own decisions and you do what you want, but then on the other hand, you admit, well, yes, I obey what I'm told. It's like, okay, but that doesn't make you free though. Like seriously, this is such a contradiction. Like, how can you be free on one hand, but yet on the other hand, you admit that you are a obedient servant to the ruling class? It's like, okay, like say for instance, you know what I find funny? Like the Americans will think that that's just logic, but yet if they hear a Russian say that about themselves, they'll think that that's hypocritical. Like, oh, well, how could you be free in Russia? How could you be free in Russia? Right? Like the Americans would think that's hypocrisy for a Russian to call themselves free, but then love their country. But yet the American can do the same thing though, and not think twice about it. Like, isn't that hypocrisy right there? But here's the main kick in the balls that we have to address. I find it completely hypocritical and delusional how everybody out here in America will say, well, yeah, all men are created equal. Right? Remember, that's the slogan of America. All men, whether they're white, black, brown, blue, or orange, everybody was created equal. Right? Everybody is created equal. But yet the ironic twist of it all, though, is then they believe, and their deluded and retarded minds, that there's such a thing as a lawmaker, right, or legislator, or the lawmaker, right, the Congress of the United States. Which, by the way, in case you didn't know, the way they make rules is they can throw some ideas back and forth. Then, if the majority agrees on it, they'll write out a bill, send it up to the president. If he signs it, now the bill becomes law. In a nutshell, that's basically how laws are made, at least in the United States, right? But the point of the matter is the Congress, which is like 300 different men and women, they can come together, throw some faults back and forth. Like, say, if one of them comes up with an idea and say, just for a random example here, like, oh, well, maybe we should impose a tax to drive on the streets, right? Maybe there should be an extra tax people have to pay just to drive around, to wherever they're going. And if they can get enough people to agree to it, then it gets shipped off to the president and he can sign it and now it becomes law, right? But it shows that there's a small group of people who can make up things out of their own opinions and feelings, and everybody else will be forced by violence to obey whatever those arbitrary commands are. So, for one, that proves America cannot really be a free nation if there's a couple guys in charge who can make up things and everybody has to obey what they say. That's not a free country. Like, I'm sorry, but that's not a free country. Like, say, for instance, how are you going to tell me? Yeah, how are you going to tell me that America is a free country that values the individual liberties and freedom of the person if, on the other hand, there's a group of people who rule over the country who can make up whatever they want and everybody will be forced to obey their arbitrary guidelines and commands? Like, sorry, but that's not free. You're welcome to be a little pissant, crybaby, and believe that if you want. But it doesn't make you smart just to repeat garbage because you're brain rotted and ignorant. So let's recap real quick. So how is it that Americans claim that every man is created equal, right? All men are equal, whether they're red, blue, black, or white. But yet, on the other hand, Americans also believe there are some people who are more than just mere human. They're really like godlike, right? And they're the senators and lawmakers. They literally call them lawmakers. So what that means is basically these couple guys have the power to make regulation out of their opinions and feelings, and we all must bow before them and obey. It's like, okay, well, doesn't that prove that you don't believe that all men are created equal? Because if they were all created equal, well, how the hell could some people have the power and ability to lay down regulation for everybody else to follow if your dumbass says that all men were created equal? So how the hell do they have the rights to control me and you, but only they have that, though? Like, seriously. And then second of all, where did they get the right from? Say, for instance, the founding fathers and their documents that they wrote down, at the birth of America, right, her early days, they wrote down and said, oh, the Congress has the power to lay down tax. It's like, okay, well, where did they get that right from? Like, say, for instance, I don't have the right to say, well, everybody in this neighborhood owes me a tax because, well, I say so. It's like, yeah, I don't have the power to say that, but how did the Congress get the power, though? Because didn't the people who just signed the documents, aren't they just mere regular human beings? So how did they get the power and the right to give other people the right to steal money from other people by way of taxation? And if you ask the average American, whatever, man, all I know is I'm free. I'm free. It's like, okay, well, isn't your poor dumbass, working for, 9.80 an hour and you can barely afford rent and have to pay all these extremely high bills every month and probably have to pay child support as well? So in what sense are you free exactly, though? Just because you can, watch Netflix and chill for a little bit, like 2 times a week, the days you might get off, and not have to work for like 2 days of the week, which, by the way, most people can't really do that because out here, at least in America, most people have to work 2 damn jobs, and even that ain't enough to live a decent lifestyle. Like, shit, I'm seeing reports out here now saying that even making 100 grand, let me say that again, even making $100,000 a year, you can't even live a decent lifestyle in America making $100,000 a year at this point. This is a real statistic. Look that up. Even in America, if you're making $100,000, you can't even live a decent lifestyle in America in 2025. Just think about that for a second. It's like, this is crazy out here. Then a whole nother thing to bring up is recently I was at Walmart and I saw somebody that was getting literally 4 damn bags of groceries, and somehow the total came up to $400. It's like $400 damn. All they got was, a couple meats, a couple personal hygiene products, a couple candies, a couple, drinks and milk or whatever. How the hell is that shit like $400 for literally 4 damn reusable bags full of groceries? Shit, on top of that, in a lot of states, now you got to check yourself out when you go to these stores like Walmart or Target or, Sam's Club or, so on and so forth. It's like, shit, if I'm checking myself out, which is saving the company money and time because they had to usually pay somebody to stand there and check us all out. So, shit, I should be, getting a discount on what I'm buying if I'm doing somebody else's job. You know what I'm saying? And then on top of that, they don't even have the decency over here, especially in Jersey or, a few other states around the country, to even give us bags on top of that without charging you for the damn bag. This is bad out here. America is definitely in a decline. It's really undeniable to see, America is clearly in a decline, right? America is a power who is rapidly in decline, and anybody who is not willing to acknowledge that and see the facts for what they are, that person's just willfully delusional and ignorant. I mean, I don't know what else to tell you. I mean, shit, it's pretty bad when, people out here in college and are unsure about, what gender they actually are. I mean, seriously, everywhere you go, you walk around, see people out here walking around looking like, 90% of the body is all tattooed, where you got people out here calling themselves dragons walking around. Got grown-ass men being pushed around in strollers like little-ass kids. I mean, shit, you go to some of the stores out here, look at an attractive woman, it might turn out that that's actually a damn dude. Like, I'll give you an example. Like, I was watching a commercial the other day, and you see this woman there on the couch, right? Looks like a nice woman there, but it turns out, as you watch the commercial, you find out that this is actually a transformer. So you're looking at a dude, but it's actually a supposed woman, right? Or looks like a woman, but it was actually born as a man. It's like, wow, this is crazy out here. This is crazy. And an empire can't thrive like this. It comes a point when the bill needs to be due, right? And that's the point that America's getting to, right? Hey, as the Bible says, for her sins they have reached unto heaven, and God has remembered her iniquities, right? The bill needs to be paid, right? And what's that bill? That bill is all of America's sins that she committed throughout her entire nearly 250 years of existence. Well, as a nation, but she technically existed beforehand because you had the colonies that made up America. But the point of the matter is, standing all the way back to her very first days, back to the colonies, she got to pay for all the sins that she committed. That bill is about to be due. And that's the point that we're reaching in the very near future here. And, the writing is on the wall. If you can't realize it, then you're just, delusional, and you just don't know what's going on. Say if somebody wants to be a knucklehead like this dummy Jill in the comment section, and just, fly the red, white, and blue, and, praise Trump and sweet baby Jesus, and, ignore all these, factual talking points, then you're welcome to be a docile sheep like Mr. Jill. Hey, but Jill needs to get his ass, bitch slapped back to reality. Right? Jill needs to get his ass bitch slapped back to reality. But the sad thing is with a lot of these guys, just like that one knucklehead I talked to maybe a year or two ago, I think this guy's name was like Polymouth. But what is it? Polymouth? Something like that. Which is fitting because the dude, is a loud mouth himself. Right? But this dude, Polymouth, one of the guys was saying, Miles, he was telling me, even if the Christ descended from the heavens and literally bitch slapped Polymouth across the face, not even that would convince this man that he is wrong. Right? Like, even if the Christ descended from the heavens and literally bitch slapped this guy across the face and gave him the truth personally, that wouldn't even change his mind that he is wrong. It's like, wow, that's just... it's truly pathetic out here. A lot of these people, man. It's just truly pathetic how a lot of these individuals are out here, thinking. Truly just sad and pathetic. The truth is that everybody out here in America is just a docile sheep. That's a good analogy to compare Americans to, right? Everybody is just a docile sheep, believe in what the master says, and don't ask questions. Oh, remember, fly the red, white, and blue on July 4th, scream and yell for your freedom. But, don't ask questions, though. Right? Hey, America's number one, but don't ask questions. It's like, okay, well, you know what? I am going to ask questions. My question I got is, well, what makes America number one exactly? Like, first of all, you can't even leave America without getting a passport. I mean, shit, at this point, you can't even fly in the country itself without getting something they call a real ID now. I mean, that's a whole nother trend they got, right? You got to get a quote-unquote real ID in order to fly on a plane or take a train. You know what I'm saying? It's like, why the hell I got to get a real ID? It's like, isn't my regular ID fitting enough? Like, what's the difference between that and a real ID? It's like, you already know who I am, right? I mean, what's the purpose? Oh, I don't know, man. It's just the rules. It's like, okay, well, the rules are just arbitrarily made up, and, your dumbass believes them because you're a knucklehead and a blissful sheep. And it's just pathetic out here, everybody thinks, right? Everybody obeys the master and don't ask questions and just say we're number one. It's like, okay, well, why is America number one? Why is not the Philippines number one? Why not Zimbabwe? Why not Ecuador? Why not Brazil? Why is Brazil not number one? again, it's just a reasonable question to ask. Like, why is America considered by most to be number one? But it's not more free than these other nations. Like say, for instance, why is America considered more free than Canada is? Just as a side question, like, can anybody rationally answer that? Or is everybody just gonna give the same sorry ass excuse? Oh, it just is, man. That's all I know. It's like, okay, so you're just gonna believe the slogan because they say that it is? I mean, this is getting stupid now. You know, a lot of people are just stupid and sheep-like. You know, it deserves to be criticized and exposed. But anyway, I don't want to make the video too drawn out. I'll wrap it up there.